Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
Episode 5, Kings of New York. The title makes no sense to what the story is. Who runs NYC? A case is made in the Hudson River Derby. Derby's playoff debut. Red Bull New York's rising star John Tolkin, which that's a take. Feels the heat of the spotlight. And I say that because I think at this point John Tolkin is like established more now.
Yeah,
it's not
definitely.
You can't really say this kid's rising when he is kind of your face. Well, actually, not anymore because now he's in Germany. But okay, so the thing I did like initially was the story of New York City, right? Like New York City, it's the sports hub. I mean, all of the major leagues in the U.S. is in New York's in the blueprint of all those major sports. Obviously, if it's MLB, you think of the Yankees and the Mets. You think of names like Babe Ruth, Derek Jeter, Mike Piazza. You know, you got the Knicks and the Nets in basketball. You got the Giants and Jets in football. Maybe you don't talk about the Jets because they're terrible. But and then even hockey, Rangers. That's all I know. Rangers and Islanders. I don't know anything else about hockey. Don't ask me questions about hockey. And then there's MLS, which is the Red Bull New York, and NYCFC. But I'll also throw another team in here, Jose, because even though it's not MLS, but one of the most iconic, and I think most people will think about this team because of a certain influence of it, because the New York Cosmos, which obviously had Pelé.
NASL, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people loved to get and I mean, the New York Cosmos, the badge was cool, the kids were cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I thought about copping one, but which USL, if you were smart,
yeah,
I'd be trying to bring that. I'm stealing New York's market with that one alone. But in reality, with all these sports in New York, soccer is just simply not the big sport in New York. Which is crazy when you think of the whole Northeast region being the hub for soccer.
Yeah, I think again, this goes back into what I said before around what they could have done, bro. Even as B-roll, right? Like, you know what I wanted to see? I don't know if anybody's ever seen this at home. I think they're called.
Also, by the way, prime opportunity to have the Cooligans.
Oh yeah, bro. In all honesty, you could have had any one of the New York-based creators featured in the opening 15, 20 minutes. Like any one of them, to be honest. Like it doesn't. I understand that there's a certain level of media trained professionals, right, that you want to have in a production this big from the lens of Apple TV and MLS. But bro, all those guys are going to tread the line. They're going to do what Maurice Edu did to tee up the conversation, what Paul Tenorio was doing, what Herc Gomez was doing as they were kind of trying to set the scene. But none of that gets me fucking going, bro. Get me going. I want to be bought in. I want to feel like, dude, I got to move to New York to get this type of rivalry. I don't have it here in Texas. I need it somewhere. But bro, in all honesty, it seems so lukewarm that if I was a casual or if I didn't watch MLS currently, I'm like, bro, this whole league is fabricated. The whole league, even the rivalries, bro, they're trying to sell me on this, but they're doing a terrible job even at that. Bro, get some real fans, even if they're not media trained, to talk about why they love NYCFC, right? What was so special about the year 2021 when they hoisted that chip? What does it mean?
Didn't even talk about the trophy.
Yeah, bro, what does it mean as a Red Bulls fan to like be there for as long as you have, right? An MLS 1.0 club and still not hoist it. Hashtag FC Dallas. I've been there. But like, bro,
any
like
jokes about the index card of a banner.
Bro, none of that, bro. It's just like what are we doing? It's like, you know what, man? Let's phone it in. Let's just, let's kind of make sure we check all the boxes, so to speak, just to make sure fans understand what this rivalry is, and then hopefully they'll attach themselves to the players. But like, again, you said it yourself, Tolkien, not even there anymore, right? So even if you liked what you saw in the episode of Tolkien, he's not in MLS anymore. He's playing overseas. And look, Tavon, Gray, essentially cool. He's still there. Malachi Jones still there. It's just Cushing's not even there anymore, and he got a good little feature in this episode too. I'm sure Davi loved that. But like again, man, it's just there's so many pieces here that feel. If I was a New Yorker, bro, I'll be honest, it would feel like they
It
undersold this
it wasn't a
market.
good representation in New York. I
No.
like the introduction. I like the guys at the barber shop talk. I also love how the one soccer guy is rocking an Arsenal sweatshirt.
Yeah,
I was
they're
just
all
like,
talking regular sports, and he just chimes in with some David Beckham shit. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, it's just like okay. But I love the reason why I like that conversation because you're talking about who personifies New York sports, right? They're all throwing the names. You heard Derek Jeter, you heard Lawrence Taylor, you heard Carmelo Anthony, and all those names. And I think that that's another thing that and I think they tried to kind of talk about it in this episode, which was the hometown kid, right? Almost every major sports team in New York has like their kid, their son of the team. When you think of the Yankees, obviously you think of Derek Jeter, New York's son. Derek Jeter can do no wrong.
Hmm.
Mid shortstop, if you ask me. It should have been A-Rod. But and then now currently with Aaron Judge, right now he's New York's son, the captain, blah blah blah, whatever crap. And so you're talking to, and they're kind of build this story about the hometown kid, and I think that was at least their idea of showing John Tolkin, who's no longer with Red Bull New York, and Tavon Gray. One John Tolkien, I don't know where from New York he's from, but obviously it's been part of the system with New York and clearly part of the youth ranking, the youth clubs in New York as well, because obviously we find out that Tavon Gray and John Tolkien have played against each other
Hmm.
in clubs level, and obviously Tavon Gray, kid from I believe the Bronx, very New York, especially the way he talked. But like you had two guys that literally grew up playing against each other, and literally that was it. That was all they said, and they went on with the rest of the episode. They really didn't really went that deep with that. I think that could have been the storyline a little bit, um, because once again, if you're going to, I think the hometown kid storyline would have been an interesting storyline if that was what they were going to do.
They should have. They honestly should have, bro. You remember the scene where Edelman's in the back of the car with with Tolkien, and he says, "Oh, hey, it's your buddy, your favorite person," and you're thinking maybe they played together, and now it's kind of interesting, right? Friends being on opposite side of the rivalries, but that wasn't the case at all. They actually hate each other, and they grew up. Tolkien grew up with that team, and everyone's got that team, bro. I think if you grew up, playing against certain players, whether you're on a team with them later on in your career or not, like there's always that little bit of animosity. And I had those guys, bro. It happened twice to me. One time all through the youth system and then playing with them in the academy. And then there was another player, a striker that I used to guard every single time, all throughout my high school career. We hated each other and we were roommates the first year of college, got recruited by the same school. And so it was just like, again, like those types of things like that will get fans into this, right? It's like they teased us all the way up to that point, and then it's like boom, Malachi Jones, cool kids, came from Sierra Leone, all that stuff. That's a great story. I don't want to discount that, but you had a massive opportunity to go way deeper into what makes Tolkien versus Gray a potential rivalry, or how that played into the Hudson River Derby being as heated as it was last season. I remember everything from the two regular season matches all the way up until playoffs, and I feel like we just didn't get that, man. If like they just decided it wasn't a good idea anymore, and they pivoted to something brand new entirely with Malachi Jones.
No, exactly, and I think that was kind of like this is where I just think that the guys at Onside probably just had no idea what to do with this footage because the intro for this episode from last episode was talking about Malachi Jones, which then to me was like, oh, this is the Malachi Jones episode. Like this is where we're gonna learn about this guy. And I think I think this was the initial plan for MLS Onside. This was going to be about Malachi Jones, the kid from Sierra Leone. A very heartwarming story about how obviously his father passed away. He was his all his siblings were adopted by this family in Tennessee. Um, Played at Lipscomb University. Um, I had to try to my best to not make that sound inappropriate. Um, he was drafted in 2024, eighth overall pick in the MLS draft. A lot of potential, I believe, younger than most your typical draft picks as well, because I think he was still in his like early 20s versus most guys being 22, 23, 24 around there. But obviously, story kind of gets ruined because he gets injured in against San Jose, I believe, gets a really rough injury, broken fibula. Um, didn't look great. And I think from there they were just like, crap, what do we do now? And so I think that was really the problem. But aside from all that, it just the story, the flow of this whole episode was weird. Even the discussions of the derbies was weird. Like it wasn't. It just like, oh yeah, they lost 5-1. They show the 2-1 game, but then they're like, oh yeah, we also lost five. We also beat them 5-1 this one game. So
Yep.
it was just weird. It was just weird in general.
Yeah, I agree, man. It was just again, it's not even the fact that they were like cutting from story to story without finishing it. It really wasn't that. It almost felt like they didn't do their homework. They ran out of footage, and it was time to pivot to the next topic, right? Like I think back to, and again, this was later in the season. I think this was like probably late summer, when Inter Miami came to the Bronx, right, to take on NYCFC, and you just see like the fans beating the shit out of that bus as it drove through. That's what you needed, bro. Like, if all else fails, just show what makes New York unlike any other market in the country with its sports fans. Everyone knows they're one of the most tortured fan bases in America. Show that. But even despite that, they're making it difficult for their opponent every single time. It's never going to be a cakewalk when you go to New York, and it should be taken to the next level with a derby. And again, from a number of perspectives, player storylines, the unfinished feel of the product, just all the pieces of the derby they missed. It just felt like they dropped the ball in a number of areas, bro. And I don't want to sit here and complain about it all night, but it's just, man, again, MLS, it's already not the most exciting league for other fans across the world to get into. And if you're using this docu-series or this content to get into it, you're probably also, again, just a little more let down.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, like, why should I keep watching this series? Like I said last episode, I talked about it. Like, usually when I'm watching Hard Knocks at the halfway point, I kind of lose interest, and now I'm getting ready for football season. And I mean, MLS season, we're already like 5 matches in, so we're kind of getting that same feeling. But at the same time, like I said, I'm still wanting to see how this finishes out because I'm also a big fan of Drive to Survive. But this was definitely a huge disappointment. You gave it a 5. I would give it a much lower score because I don't feel like I came away with anything from this episode. Besides just John Tolkin is kind of a douche. But
I respect it though. I respect it. I think Edu said it best. Like he is, don't get me wrong, but he's like that guy that you would still like want to have on your
I
team.
mean, he's a
100%.
New Yorker.
I would take him. Yeah,
He's a New Yorker. I mean, that's literally
I
just.
would take him on my team every day of the week, bro. Every day of the
I mean,
week.
no, yeah. I mean, all jokes aside, he's as New Yorker as possible. So, when it comes down to it, but I mean, yeah. Aside from that, NYCFC obviously wins the regular season, both the both matches of the regular season. But I mean, Red Bull New York gets the ultimate laugh, and I mean, obviously we all know how Red Bull New York ends their season, which was losing in the MLS Cup final. Um, you know, Jovic definitely had a say in that. But. Yeah, and it was cool because but they didn't even hype up that this is the first Hudson River Derby in the playoffs. Like it was like, oh yeah, this is the first Hudson River Derby in the playoffs. That was literally all they
They
said.
mentioned it one time on the Apple TV desk, right? Where it was like, oh, it's the first one. What can we expect? They talked about it for 30 seconds and they moved on. That's what I'm saying. They could have even asked the fans, brought in some of that perspective.
Just in general, this year should have just been like just the Hudson River. This episode could have just been the Hudson River Derby, and just have the interactions of the fans. Like this could have been the first fan specific episode, and I think that would have been much better than what all this was.
They try to make it too pretty. You know what I mean? Like they try to make it too produced, if that makes sense. And there's just something like with derbies, nothing, any rivalry, doesn't matter what the sport is, no one will be able to give you the history of it, to react to it, or just show pure emotion with it than the fans. No one will ever, there isn't a single pundit in this world who has more knowledge on a local rivalry than the fans that live in that community do. There's just not a single one. I refuse to believe that. So in that moment, it just feels very naive that like Onside and Apple TV didn't push to get more reactions directly from the fans, especially knowing what we know about NYCFC as a fan base, Red Bulls New York as a fan base. And dude, even building up the history of the two teams, like what do we know about Red Bulls? Did they talk anything about the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars? Did they mention any of the star power that has come through Red Bull New York? Right? The Rafa Marquez's of the world, the Thierry Henrys, the Dax McCartys, go further
I
back.
mean,
The Clint
how did
Mathesons of the world.
how the Red Bull deal come to be? Like,
Yeah. Bro,
nothing.
just none of that history. Like none. Like it's just like, hey, you know what? Not really important, guys. Just get ready for these three games that we're gonna brush over really fast in 35 minutes. Like it just again, man, it just so much of it was done poorly, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll say one thing also about this episode was yeah, I think we really need to stop saying New York is either red or blue because there's a that color is those colors are affiliated to something that could if you in context, especially in the setting, if you just randomly just were in the streets of Brooklyn and you just yelled out New York is blue, I'm sure
Tear,
not,
tear the city apart, bro. It's
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
burn it down.
just relax, cut. That's all I gotta say, because that is a
Yeah.
those are fighting
I
words.
choose not to say color, like, whatever. Right? I get the sentiment, you see it in cities, bigger cities overseas or whatever, London is red or blue, whatever. I get it. It's just like, yeah, New York's probably the last place I probably want to do that.
New York.
I won't do it in LA either, although there isn't a red and blue distinction. It's like black and gold versus white and gold, but like still, it's just, yeah, no shot.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for you and me, Jose, one, my color's orange. There's no one will be that bold to pick an orange color to be their color. But and then I
Facts.
mean, if you were to say Texas is red, I mean, to be fair, Texas is very much red.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to be fair, yeah, politically it is extremely red. So yeah, there's no dividing line here. But yeah, bro, there's just when they say that, I understand, and you can have the debate back and forth, like, oh, Red Bulls have the historical 1v1 against NYCFC, but NYCFC have a chip. Again, even that point, they didn't pick that apart, right? They didn't ask more fans, hey, which one really is it, right? Like, how do you feel? How do you feel? Like, take the NFL, for example. I guarantee you, like you said it before, and we all know, Jets suck. At the end of the day, though, asking Jets fans, asking Giants fans, which fan base is bigger or more prominent in New York, I bet you anything it's still a tug of war, right? Like, just give us something to and I don't know, give us something to hang on to so that we're invested in going to watch these two teams play after we watch this episode. But there was none of that. There was none of that. It was so focused on the individual players. And the crazy part about that is Onside must have been kicking themselves. Tolkien left. So now, even if you were invested in how cocky, arrogant, how much of a douchebag, Tolkien may have seemed, I didn't think that he was. I actually thought I want this guy on my team 100%. But at the same time, like you can't even watch him in MLS anymore. The guy's literally overseas now. So I don't know, man. Dropped the ball in a number of ways.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even with the Malachi Jones story, which is a really great story, that honestly, like just when as talking about this more and more now, there's literally like 4 episodes in just this one episode alone
Yeah.
that it could have been done so much better. A fan perspective on New York's rise as far as soccer goes. Red Bull New York and NYCFC, how they feel about each other, how they feel about the Hudson River Derby. The fact that there was the first ever Hudson River Derby in the playoffs, in its history. Malachi Jones, the hometown kid narrative. Like you literally have multiple episodes in this one episode that you once again you didn't get. I don't feel like I got like an ending to anything. There was no proper ending to any of these storylines at all.
Yeah.
Like
Even with Malachi Jones, bro, like all we saw was that he got injured. Which by the way, dude, he got absolutely destroyed. I mean, like that. Who's the keeper? I can't remember the keeper off the top of my head. Um, but bro got wrecked. I mean, like legitimately an American football tackle in a soccer game. I mean, obviously the lower part of his body, it wasn't like he got form tackled on the field, but like legitimately his legs completely taken out, breaks his tibia. And like you saw the tiniest bit of the recovery process, bro. Not even the recovery. The guy was literally just like moving around a tiny little ball on the floor in his room, and like that's all you saw. And then you saw him at the game, in the playoff game when they played against the Red Bulls, and he was kind of let down. And that's really it. I'm like, dude, what is this? Like, what was the point of including it if you're not even gonna make us invested in this player as an
I
individual,
mean,
right?
I wanted to hear him FaceTime his family about that he was getting the start. We didn't
Yeah,
get that. We just got him having a conversation with his brother.
light
And
audio. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's like, and he talked about, he's like, yeah, like the first people I usually call is my family. And I'm like, I would have loved to have seen, I mean, all of them are very much older now, so I don't think that they're all living still in Tennessee, but at least like FaceTiming his parents, like we didn't get that. We didn't get that at all. And so yeah, that was kind of a flop. The whole John Tolkin, Tavon Gray thing, nothing really much after that. I think after Red Bull New York won, it just became like camera at John Tolkin because he's right now talking crap to the NYCFC fans, and so like yeah, nothing. It was really
yeah.
disappointing. I feel like this was a good opportunity to get Thierry Henry in here and share his perspective of Red Bull New York, being someone that has played for that club and has had some good runs with them. Unfortunately, no championships from it, but
Yeah. Bro,
um,
no BWP, no Bradley Wright Phillips. Dude, he's
and he
one of the
works
most
there.
and he works for Apple TV. He's one of the most media trained former players in that whole group, and no opinion from him on this. Like again, bro, it's just and when they put the final cuts together, I want to know who greenlit this episode. Just like, you know what? Yep, I like it. I'm invested in this rivalry now. It's going to put it out there. Like, I don't
I
know,
would
man.
also say it would have been interesting to bring in David Villa, but I know that's kind of a conflicting thing, especially after we found out things that happened behind the scenes with near NYCFC. But
Yeah, but there's still players you could have brought in, bro. 100%, right? Like just somebody. And again, somebody who can just make it seem like again, maybe Emil Forsberg feels this way. I'm not really sure, right? But to get his take on like, hey, what did those three matches feel like? Like what did the first derby match feel like when you're coming from a part of the world where local derbies are everything? Did this one live up to the hype? We never got any of that. Like it I don't know. It actually pisses me off a little bit.
yeah, it's unfortunate, and the next episode is going to be about the transfer window, which like I'm kind of confused now because I'm like, is it because you have Gabby Peck and Paintsel, right? They
Yeah.
show those guys, and then obviously Luis Suarez as well. But it's just like, okay, so is it the initial transfer window? Because then you start talking about Giroud, who that's a summer transfer window. So I'm like, what transfer window are we talking about here?
I think it's summer. I think it's summer, and I think personally. So I know what you're talking about with like the transfer window vibes. I think though they're just using that as a way to like we'll probably get some light education, right, for those fans who are not familiar with how MLS transfer rules work prior to the 2025 season because they've changed a little bit. I think that there's a little bit of education on it. It's like, hey, if you thought it works the way the rest of the world does, it doesn't. Here's how it works, and then they're gonna spotlight El Tráfico,
I think
LAFC's transfers and how the Galaxy felt about them.
I think also we're gonna get the answers to, and obviously this is I know right now that's not a player that you're thrilled to at least see right now, but the whole how did a team that was the front runner essentially because of the discovery rights of Marco Rose going to Charlotte FC, which in hindsight that seems that would have made more sense now when you think about it, versus then him ended up going to the LA Galaxy.
Yeah. Um, by the way, Charlotte has to be super happy with that deal, right? I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
they dodged the bullet.
that was a huge W for Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get some of that too. Because again, I think what they're trying to do in this next episode is like, I think Giroud's gonna have a massive spotlight on him. I think Michael Royce may have a good size spotlight on him as well. And it's like, oh, the start of look what Messi did. All these big stars are coming over now. I think it's going to be like that type of feel where we got a little bit of that with like Ricky Puig, former Barcelona player, coming to lead LA Galaxy, that type of vibe. I can see some of that here. We'll get their honest takes on what it's like to live in America, to be a part of the league. But I hope it's a massive swing in the opposite direction from this NYCFC episode. Oh, sorry, from the Hudson River Derby episode, the Kings of New York. Again, with that type of a title, you have to deliver. And I want to get a real New Yorker's opinion. Like no shit, no bullshit. If you're a New Yorker listening and you haven't watched it, go watch that episode of Onside, episode number 5, The Kings of New York, and tell me if that represents what you think New York, not even just sports, but New York soccer stands for. Because I don't think so. I think they did you guys a massive injustice. But this episode 6 has to be a complete banger just to save what we saw in episode 5.
Yeah. Episode 5 definitely, like I said, now belongs on the bottom of when it comes to these episodes. I think at the end we'll do like
Ooh, a ranking would be good.
a ranking of the episodes and to see where we stand along with that. But
Lit.
yeah, this was a massive flop for me. This was
Is it
very
the worst one?
unorganized.
Is it the worst one so far?
It has to be. It has
Yeah,
to be. I think. I mean, I by default it would have been last episode with, just because I feel like Kansas City and St. Louis, I just wasn't really that interested in that rivalry. But the
fair.
Tim Parker storyline was the really what kept me in it. This one, I think I don't know how quick I was to looking at TikTok. This was going on.
Yeah, I was literally. I remember a few days ago when I watched it. I was like eating lunch. I was like, let me just sit down and watch this. Let me just like not no phone around me. I'm just gonna eat, watch. And yeah, bro, like I thought it was gonna get juicy. I thought it was gonna get really good when Edelman and Tolkien were talking in the back of the car. I was like, all right, bro, rivalry. Him, Tavon Gray, they hate each other. Let's get it.
You mean you tell me you can't get any clips from them playing back in the day?
That's what I'm saying, bro. Just something. And Tolkien even said everybody hated that team. Everybody hated playing against them. They're kind of dirty. Like, bro, great. I know what that's like. I know how it's like to play against those players and to play with them at some point throughout your career. None of it. None of it,
Yeah.
man. Even Tolkien has to be pissed about this episode. There's no way he wasn't.
This was just it was very much you just were teased because
Yeah.
you're waiting for the all right, show it, and it's like no. It's like no. We're not. I'm it's crazy that I was more excited about Sporting Kansas City's locker room than I am about this.
Bro,
Uh,
facts. Bro, facts. Unfortunately, with this episode, we'll never get that time back. Those 35 minutes are gone forever. But yeah, man, it's just again, I don't want to spend this whole episode like I'm just bitching nonstop. But at the end of the day, man, the series so far, it's like it started off on a great high note. And for the first 3 episodes, probably kept that same bar of quality. I agree with you on episode 4. It's like especially if you weren't invested in the type of athlete or player personality wise that Tim Parker is, then like the rest of it's like, oh my God, whatever. Especially if you don't live in the Midwest, you don't understand that type of rivalry. But this one has plunged even further. And so, man, yeah, the LAFC episode has to be an absolute banger.
yeah, it has to. I mean, as far as looks goes, it's definitely gonna win it there. But I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be intrigued because obviously this is like the cool strategy of the whole general. People get to learn what a general manager does.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of one of the things. Like I think, um, it's kind of when you talk about Hard Knocks, right? When you have like the episode where the GM's on the phone trying to get this trade done with this team or getting ready for draft day and all that stuff. Like you're like, is this how it works? Like this is how they do it? Like it's
Uh,
like you're kind of that's kind of like where you get to see the behind the scenes. And obviously, if you're a New York fan, you're probably very much pissed off at that Hard Knocks where the Giants guys were talking about how they don't need Saquon Barkley, and obviously that aged super well.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I'm sure he's happy about that episode too. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, even again with the Malachi Jones story, what that was like to draft him. What went into that process, right?
yeah,
What did you
we
like about him in college? And keep in mind, this is a league where we don't see that many players from the college ranks actually have tremendous impact in the pros, right? Because it's not like other leagues where you're getting the very best, next best available prospects into your organization. This is a situation where you're hoping it works out, but it probably won't. Like that's what college soccer has kind of been for MLS up to this point. They've had some prospects work out that have been drafted, but many of them don't because the disparity in levels is too big. And so if Malachi Jones worked out, then great. Show me some college highlights. What was he doing? Why did you guys draft him? Let's talk to the GM a little bit. Maybe some footage of him getting drafted, right? Like, I mean, hell, footage of when he was playing as a kid. Like, what makes him this great local talent that's gonna almost force other younger players in the New York, metro area to want to be on that same path? Like, I just feel like they didn't ask themselves any of
Guys
these
didn't even
questions.
interview anybody from the family of Malachi Jones. Like, you didn't ask their parents, what was it about that family that you were like, we need to get these kids a home, like, and once again, such a beautiful story about how these kids, they lost their dad over there in Sierra Leone and were orphans, and they all they had was each other, and then this family comes in. We don't know how all that happened, and they come in, they find their new home in Tennessee, like, and we don't get that storyline either. We don't get his journey as he progressed as a player, how his support system was, which I'm sure was a great support system because of a family, but still, like, we didn't get that. If we're, we talked about last episode being a cool family episode. This was possibly another great, like, Dominic Toretto will be crying right now, if you be watching the
Yeah.
back-to-back family stuff.
Yeah, no shit, man. That's what I'm saying, right? I think without talking in circles, it's just it felt like you said, like being in a movie theater and we caught four trailers of things that are dropping next year all at the same time. Right? That's
Yeah.
basically what we got. That's what this episode was. It felt like they did maybe record that footage and just decided the episode was too long and they couldn't include it, or something along those lines. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense, but yeah, hopefully there is a path to them understanding that. Because while the episode itself was pretty decently produced, I guess you could say, right, like the level of access that we kind of got for the most part, um, you know, the I guess finding a way to fast track from the first derby of the season all the way to the one at the end in playoffs. Like I can see the bones of what they're trying to put together, but the rest of the execution just wasn't there.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, that's episode 5. Wasn't great. But that is episode 5.
I feel like we for anybody who's like tuning in, like, hey, I haven't watched it, but now I'm definitely not going to watch it. I mean, look, let us know for yourselves, man. Like at the end of the day, like if you thought it was good, I really want to know why. I promise I'm not trying to just like absolutely, shit on this episode. I mean, it was bad, but at the same time, it's also in comparison to the rest of the episodes that have been pretty good up to this point. So yeah, just let us know what you think, man. I don't want to make it seem like we're just all doom and gloom over here.
Who is that guy?